sounds really deep and sexy because I lost it on the second woo.
All right, we are now joined by our Daytona 500 championship winning driver, Austin Cindric, driver of the number 2 Discount Tire Ford for Team Penske. We will go straight to questions for our rookie here who just won a Daytona 500. Please raise your hand and we'll get a wireless mic for you. We'll start up here in the front with Deb and then go to Alan.
Deb Williams, RacingToday.com. Congratulations, Austin. I noticed after you finished, you were sitting on the hood of the car staring up at the grandstand. Why? What was going through your mind? What were you thinking?
Well, I broke the car. I broke the starter and I blew out the right rear tire. So don't think that's anything bad. But yeah, I was kind of stranded. So definitely a good time to collect my thoughts and just appreciate the moment there for a minute. To be able to do this in front of a sellout crowd, to be able to do this in general, to be able to be part of this race, having a shot. It's a racer's dream, and so many people get close to it, and I feel very grateful and very proud to be able to pull it off.
We're going to go to Alan in the front, and then we'll go up to the press box.
Alan Cavana, I know it was your second start, but as a Cup rookie coming into this morning, did you think you could win this race? And if so, where did that confidence come from?
I'll be honest, I knew I had the car to do it, but there's so many things that have to play out correctly and putting yourself in position. And I think we learned throughout the race with myself and my spotter and Jeremy as well as doing the right strategy, the right calls, and setting up the right lanes to be able to put ourselves in position. Sometimes that's all you can hope for, and sometimes you have to force people to help you. And I definitely didn't expect any help throughout the day. I did get some from the Fords, and I think Ford's did an incredible job with this new car, and I think it's obviously shown the first couple races. So just proud to be able to do it, proud to be able to hold off those runs at the end of the race, and it means the world to me to be able to sit here and say I'm a Daytona 500 winner.
Can you talk about that run at the end? I mean, a little move to hit. I guess there was some contact with Bubba, but you're doing what you can. So that last from turn 4 to the finish line, what happened?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably been an hour since the race has been over. I still haven't even seen the race, but once I crossed the start-finish line for the white flag, everyone behind me bailed. Everyone started lifting. Everyone was trying to get their runs, and I was probably 20% throttle for most of the last lap, just trying to stay relatively close to where I could at least defend something or be able to be close enough to be able to get to the tri-oval. I knew if I got to the tri-oval and I was nose ahead, I would get it. I think I actually learned that Thursday night, and but for me, just holding off the Wolves. I mean, it's the race that means everything to everybody. Once you come off of 4, all gloves are off, and everybody wants it.
Going to check in upstairs in the press box.
Bruce Martin with Speed Sport. Kid, you never got a chance to know your grandfather on your mother's side. The great Jim Truman, he won the Indy 500 as team owner 10 days before he died of cancer. I'm sure you've heard all the stories. What do you think he'd be thinking right now to know that his grandson is a Daytona 500 winner? And I have a follow-up to that.
Yeah, it's hard to speculate on that, but obviously I've met a lot of people throughout my life, and even watching the Willie T. Ribbs documentary, if y'all haven't watched that, I learned more about my grandfather than I ever have throughout the most of my years on this earth. But he was an incredible man and led an incredible life, and racing meant a lot to him, and racing's meant a lot to my family. So to be able to say that I've been able to accomplish this, and there's nothing more important to me than racing. There's nothing more important to me than being part of this sport. And to think that I'm a Daytona 500 winner, that you can't take that away, and he's an Indy 500 winner, and you can't take that away from him.
And you grew up around Roger Penske as a small child, running around. You were a big Elio fan. In some ways, has he kind of served a little bit of a role as a grandfatherly type to you in addition to being your boss?
Yeah, he's a lot more than just my boss. When I think of it, and next to my parents, he's probably been the most influential person on my life, just whether if it's been leading by example or the way he treats people, the way he runs his business, and how he is with his family. If I can be half the man Roger Penske is, I'd say I've lived a good life. So I think of an amazing opportunity. A lot of people talk about I get the opportunities that I do, and I become successful because of who my father is and what he's done in his life. And I think it's the exposure to those people have meant more to me, have meant more to my career as far as leading and doing things the right way than any other advantage anyone else can have. So I feel really blessed to be able to do that and utilize that experience in my life from a young age, to be able to put myself up front in the biggest stage and obviously have a great time doing it.
We're going to go to Zach, Bob, and then Ryan.
Zach Sternhill with FrontStretch.com. Austin, congratulations on this. You were in this race a year ago, obviously, but it looked like a completely different style of racing today. Was there anything from last year that you learned that you could apply to today's race?
I think the biggest thing is the competitors. You know, when you come up from the Xfinity Series, I spent 4 years in that series, and I said it when we were here on media days. The biggest transition, especially on plate races, for me is to learn my competitors, and that was kind of my first eye into the Cup Series, and let alone having more competitive cars. But these guys are the best, and you can expect them to make the right moves for them, which in some ways I really enjoy because it makes my job harder yet easier because you're expecting everyone to do the best thing possible and everyone to be perfect. And I think that it's an incredible opportunity for me to be able to run it last year and get some experience up front, and but also to be able to come back here today and be able to be a contender throughout the entire event means a lot. It says a lot about my team, says a lot about my race car, and you know, it's obviously a great foundation to start the year.
You were also around Brad Keselowski quite a bit today, pushing him a lot, especially early. Are you conscious of that in the moment, just the irony of that, but I guess more importantly, what allowed you guys to work so well together?
Well, I think it falls back on guys being really, really good, and Brad is really, really good at this style of racing. That's why he was up front a lot of the day, and I've learned a lot from Brad throughout my career. So obviously to be able to be in the two car and run tandem for so long is what we did. It was kind of cool, you know, especially early parts there in the beginning of the race. But I also did learn a lot, you know, whether if I was being the pusher for Blaney or for Brad, as far as what that second car meant to the runs and things
that you put to use?
It's a long list that I plan on doing before I go to bed tonight. There's so much different about this car, but at the same time, it is the same style of racing. You know, I think for a fan from the grandstands probably could have looked at this and go, "Oh, this is Daytona with NASCARs." But man, I keep doing that too. I keep calling them NASCARs, and all these people look at me like I have 4 eyes. Like it's a NASCAR to me, but it's a race car. It's a Cup car to everybody else. So I'll get better at that. But it's still the same style of racing, but the cars themselves are a lot different. The runs built a lot differently, and it was really interesting to see who picked up on different things throughout the race, even in practice, and learned, you know, like I said, 400 miles in, I learned a lot about it, and got ourselves with really good track position by the end of the race, and I think I knew what I was going to have to do to be able to hold cars off if I was in that opportunity.
And would the driver who averaged a 17th place finish as a rookie in the Xfinity Series, could that driver envision this day?
The driver that spun in front of the entire Xfinity field in 2018 on like lap 6, probably not. Probably not. You probably couldn't have picked me up from the care center and say, "You're going to win the Daytona 500 one day." I probably would have said, "Bullshit." But we've come a long way since then. So it's a very big credit to a lot of the people around me that have believed in me. You know, I've driven a lot of different race cars in my career, a lot of different race cars at this track alone, and I've seen the highs and lows of it. I have a lot of perspective from friends, from competitors, co-drivers, teammates. You know, this race means so much to so many people, and just very humbled to be able to get it done.
Going to go to Ryan in the back, then we'll check in the press box.
Austin, Ryan McGee with ESPN. You touched on this a little bit, but the silver spoon nepotism claims have been around motorsports forever. What's this mean for you, all those whispers that have kind of followed you throughout your career when it comes to, hey, that's how he got in that ride?
I'm not sure. I would say I'm not an externally motivated person, and I'm not an externally intimidated person. My head's pretty much in the game 24/7. I don't think about much anything else except for racing. I don't have much of a social life. I hardly do anything else but go to the race shop and spend time, well, either staring at my race cars or working out or spending time with my crew chief. So for me, I guess I don't have time for the noise. But if there's anything I have left to prove, I'm not sure what it is. But otherwise, I'm very proud of the family that I've come from. You know, the person that my dad is and the way he leads our team. You know, I'm very proud to be exposed to that. Like I said before, with my exposure with my parents and Roger Penske, I think that's my biggest asset is not who he is, but who he is, if that makes sense.
Going to go upstairs to the press box.
Congratulations, Austin. It's Lee Spencer. Hope you're doing well. In your opening statement on the interview on TV, you made mention of a packed house. And for a young guy like you who, the last couple of years you've raced in a pandemic, no fans in the stands or very little fans, to have this kind of a stage, quite frankly, a stadium and all these people, cheering you on, seeing their reaction. How different has it made this experience for you? I mean, if you can imagine what it might have been like, you were here a year ago, and to have a almost empty place to do what you did in front of this crowd, it had to have been exhilarating.
Yeah, I mean, it means a lot to me because this sport, my career, what I get to do for a living is all I want. And to see so many people take joy from the things that I love, it's very gratifying. But from that standpoint, I tried to let myself smell the roses today, and I never did. It's just not who I am. I'm way too competitive. I know how much is at stake and how much work I've put in to really pay attention to it. Like I said, I'm not externally motivated or intimidated. It's just part of the process. But I think it says a lot about our sport. To your point about a lot of races under COVID over the last 2 years. The funny thing is, a lot of my success in the Xfinity Series, especially in 2020, came in an incubator. And when we got fans back at the racetrack, all of a sudden everybody knew who I was. And that was really, really weird for me. And I had to actually leave time to go places. And I still consider myself a nobody, but even walking through the garage, I mean, I'm not Kyle Busch, I'm not Joey Logano, but I guess I'm tall and somewhat recognizable, but otherwise it's definitely a new experience for me. And but like I said, to have what means the world to me, make so many people, bring so many people so much joy, it makes my job pretty gratifying.
Can you feel the vibe and the energy, just this refreshed energy that NASCAR is kind of like on a roll right now?
Well, I think NASCAR's been doing a lot of things right, and I think, as far as being aggressive, as far as our strategy, as far as the cars, as far as a race like the Clash, I think in the future there's a lot more opportunities with the package that we have, and you even saw it this weekend with the 21 car being able to fix their car and not have to go to a backup. Last year that would have been a backup. So I think our sport is changing in the right direction, and to have a packed house here is another great example of that. So our leadership has done an incredible job. I'm not just saying that because they're technically my bosses, but they really have, and it shows.
We're going to go to Dan and then Al. Dan, right behind you.
Dan Gelson, Associated Press. Austin, Bubba, you just dodged him got him by a nose. I guess he said out there he thought he had it like the whole way. Those last 10 laps, he thought it was like his race to lose. Did you feel that way about your ride?
I felt like I had a really good chance to lose it, and to lose it means you had a shot to win it. So, I mean, being on the front row for the last couple of restarts of the Daytona 500, you can't really envision a better case scenario for you as a driver. And that red flag, you definitely have time to reflect, and you can either reflect on what you're going to do when you succeed or how you're going to succeed. And like I said, I definitely lived in the moment there trying to figure it out because I know there's a lot of people that want this really bad, and he's definitely one of them, and he's worked hard for it and puts himself in position in a lot of these races. And it was really cool that he came up to me in victory lane, congratulated us. So definitely a hard worker as well, but definitely means a lot to pull it off like that.
Going to go to Al on the far left, and then we'll go to Aaron.
Yeah, Al Pearson, Auto Week. The year that you went to Roger and said, I'd like to go to Cup next year, and he kind of talked that down, was that a major blow to you that you felt like you proved yourself in Xfinity and you wondered, why can't I go forward? Did that bother you a lot?
I would say that's not entirely accurate, but the situation, in 2020, right around August, the playoffs hadn't started yet, and I hadn't won a championship yet, and I'd obviously won 5 races to that point. But yeah, we went to Michigan. We talked about it. We talked about the options of what was possible, and at that time, I didn't even think an Xfinity season in 2021 was possible. I knew how close we were to shutting down the Xfinity program in 2020. Roger obviously said that after we won the championship, and so I considered that a non-option as far as my career. I'd already talked to other teams in other situations trying to figure out what I would do with my career if I can't go Xfinity racing or if I can't go Cup racing. At the time, the car itself, all 4 Penske affiliated cars were full. So at that time, you definitely recognize that there's no right or wrong way to do driver development. And I forget who brought it up, but, obviously when I drove, my first Xfinity race here at Daytona, I was not ready to go Xfinity racing, and I proved it. But sometimes you don't get to pick those opportunities. BKR shuts down, I got to go to Xfinity. I have no truck opportunities. There's no Ford in Truck Series at that time, and you have to make the most of things. And I think my opportunity to run Xfinity last year, race for a championship again, and be able to hone in on a lot of the small details, I think that's what it takes to be the best on Sundays, is to be really good at the small details consistently. So I wasn't offended by it at all. I was probably surprised that we had the opportunity to even run an Xfinity car again, and I think it's certainly paid off. And like I've said before, his leadership is second to none, and I'm not going to be the one that's going to second-guess Roger Penske's judgment.
We're going to go to Aaron, then Daniel, and we'll go back up to the press box.
Aaron Bearden, Motorsports Beat. Austin, two quick ones. First off, there in the last lap, look in your rearview mirror on the backstretch. You've got your new teammate, kind of the newest star of Penske, Ryan Blaney. You've got like the star of old with Brad Keselowski. You've come up in the Penske system over the last decade. You've seen those guys grow. What's it like being on the same level as them now and getting to battle them on the sport's biggest stage?
I will say that I do not feel like I'm on the same level as those guys. I have a lot of respect for Ryan and kind of the leader that he's turned into in our race team. I don't think it's because Brad's departure. I think even last year you saw it, Ryan was probably our strongest guy every weekend. So I have a lot of respect for Ryan and the driver that he's kind of become over the last couple of years, and obviously my relationship with Brad. So I also know those are two guys that have come really close a lot of times to winning Daytona 500s, and they would not want me to win it before them. So definitely a lot of perspective there, but I really appreciate their leadership and what they've taught me throughout my career. But in that moment, you kind of have to block all that out and know that they want to win just as badly or worse than you do. So that's where I was in the moment. But at the same time, off of turn 4, they're just another competitor.
And I know it's always kind of the last thing you think about when you win this race to kick off the year, but how's it feel to be locked into the playoffs already?
Feels good. Feels good. I mean, I thought you were going to have to win a race to get in the playoffs this year, and we're in the playoffs. We're in the All-Star race. I can't tell you the last year the 2-car hasn't won a race, so I'd say that's a little bit of weight off the shoulders there. But I know there's going to be a lot of highs and lows in a rookie season. There's going to be a lot of highs and lows with a new race car. So to be able to give ourselves that type of security this early in the season gives us some flexibility, gives me time to be patient. I think that's the biggest thing, because even through testing, I have to remind myself to be patient, and whether if it's the drivers that I'm now competing against or a new situation, I think patience is certainly going to pay off to making sure I don't miss anything throughout the learning process.
We're going to go to Daniel. We'll go up to the press box, and then we have a question in the back of the room.
Daniel McFadden, FrontStretch.com. Austin, kind of going back to the first question you were asked by Deb, like when you're on the front stretch, your car's broke, the team's slowly putting new tires on the back of your car, and you're just sitting in your car. How surreal was that period of time for you?
It reminds me of my first Xfinity win when I blew the clutch out at Watkins Glen, and I just sat there. That one I could push back by myself, and I did for a while. This one I was stuck on the banking, but with a broken starter and no right rear tire. But overall, it was definitely a good opportunity to be able to reflect. But yeah, just an amazing opportunity to be able to sit there and take everything in. And those are moments I'm never going to be able to get back. So if I'm able to come here and win this race again and put myself in position again, I think every race is different, every experience is different. At this moment in my life, I can't think of anything more amazing and more gratifying than winning this race specifically. So it's a lot of hard work. Like I said, it's all I care about. It's all I think about, and that's what's gotten me this far.
And so after you leave here, what's the first step in Austin Cindric's celebration night?
Can't say I've thought that far ahead. I guess it depends on who's left from the race team who's still here. But I've already had a phone call with people asking me what I need to grab from my closet in the Airstream to put in my bag. So I got a spare pair of underwear. I did not pack an extra set of clothes, by the way. So I'm not that confident. So I'll be re-wearing my clothes from today tomorrow, and I will have fresh underwear. So that's a win.
I'm going to go upstairs to the press box.
Jim Utter, motorsport.com. Congrats, Austin. Two questions. One, thinking back, if you can, back to early in the race with the incident with Chase Briscoe and Kaz Grala's loose wheel, how close do you feel that came to kind of disrupting your entire race?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure if the 14 spotted the tire before we did. Obviously, I just ran over him and spun out. I'm glad it didn't really cost him anything in the race. So it didn't really actually change the race really at all for anybody. So no harm, no foul, but definitely an oh shit moment pretty early on. But otherwise, didn't really change a whole lot. You kind of have to put that behind you pretty quickly.
And at some point in your career, I think you've touched on in the past, you made a decision that you were going to be a NASCAR driver. When you think about it now, why were you so determined that that was the right course for you? And did you expect the decision to pay off so quickly?
Yeah, I mean, the situation you're referencing, in 2017, I had the opportunity that I'd probably been working for the last 3 or 4 years, which was to be a manufacturer-backed sports car driver. And I had a great opportunity lined up for me that I'd worked hard for. And at the same time, I'd done a few ARCA races, a few truck races that went fairly well. And I had the opportunity to go full-time truck racing. And think about the world being your oyster as a young driver. You actually have the opportunity to choose that. And I think when it comes to this sport, obviously this is the biggest stage in American motorsports, but I don't think you get a second chance to make a NASCAR career work. There's very few people that have been able to do that, and for me, that was an opportunity to take advantage of that. And obviously, it's gotten me this far, and I've been able to still keep ties to that side of racing, and I still have a lot of passion for that side of racing. If anyone watched the Rolex 24 or anything like that, that's kind of my passion project every year. But otherwise, yeah, it's certainly a defining moment, kind of in the path of my career.
We're going to go to the back of the room, and then there's a blue shirt on the far side, the far left of the room.
This is Melissa Thomas with Florida National News, all the way back here. Obviously, this is kind of a capstone goal for you. Now that you've won the Daytona 500, what other things fuel you to keep going? What other things are your fuel or motivation? I know you mentioned Rolex 24 is your passion project, but is there anything outside of racing that motivates you as well?
Outside of racing, I have a project car that I've spent the last 4 years working on and haven't touched it in 4 months. But otherwise, outside of racing, absolutely not. I don't have any plans or thoughts or ideas past that. As far as what's after the Daytona 500, there's a race next week that needs to be won by somebody. So got to start focusing on that at some point. I'll try and smell the roses before Fontana, but otherwise, I do subjugate the Daytona 500 in a different category than the races during the season. I look at it as another exhibition race throughout the year, and this is obviously the biggest race of them all. So I would put that on the list of Daytona 500, Indy 500, Le Mans, Rolex 24. I want to do them all. I want to be successful at them all. I would say the only one that I want to do that I have zero desire to actually just be successful is probably Baja. I just want to do it. But otherwise, certainly a lot of lofty goals for a 23-year-old, but definitely an awesome box to check if I check any of the rest of them.
I'm going to say we have 2 questions over on the left side of the room there.
Ed Albert, Fox 43. Mario Andretti called what you did today a most brilliant drive. How does getting a compliment from somebody like that and what he said make you feel?
He's a legend. The last time I saw Mario Andretti, I think was before the season started last year, and I looked him in the eye. I said, "Do you have any advice for me?" He says, "Whatever you do, stand on it." That's it. Stand on it. I can't think of any better advice you can give a race car driver than tell him to stand on it. So Mario's an absolute legend. He's an icon. I think he's a household name, and someone that definitely has made his name in this sport and in a lot of other forms of motorsports. And it's cool to check off one thing that he's done.
Let me go up here to the left. Right there, there's a microphone for you.
Kevin Schwarzy with the Racing Times. I'm going to take you back to September 2016 at Chicagoland, ARCA race in the 99 Pertec car. You're standing there, basically nobody around. I asked you for a shot of you next to your car, and you just walked straight up and took the shot, and you thanked me. I've watched you since then, and you seem to have stayed the same type of individual, easygoing, no stress, personable young man you were back then, almost 6 years later now. I mean, you're born into the sport, but there's lots of guys born into the sport, girls born into the sport, that sometimes can't handle it or aren't able to stay that grounded, if you want to call it that. Is there any one thing? Is there a lot of things that keep you, the way you are?
Well, thank you for the compliment. It's certainly a way I certainly try and lead my life, and whether if it's friends and family. But I think my parents keep me plenty grounded. But otherwise, yeah, I'm not sure. Other than I try and make things pretty simple for myself, whether that's competition related or personally. I've said earlier tonight I've got pretty simple goals, and I've had great leadership throughout my life, and great examples set for me throughout my life. And as far as my upbringing and my exposure to Roger and in this race team, and how to do things professionally, how to do things the right way, I don't see a way to do anything different. So. Thank you for noticing. Thank you for the compliment, and I look to stay on that same course.
We're going to check in the press box.
KrishnaCatchments.com. Austin, congrats on the win. I was just curious, the former driver Brad Keselowski had utmost respect for being a terrific super speedway racer in the number 2 Team Penske, and I know how hard you work at your craft, and I was just wondering what you've done over the past couple of seasons to become a better super speedway racer, and how much do you think that was a help for you tonight, and have you talked to Ryan Blaney?
Yeah, I think speedway racing and running the high line are the 2 biggest things that I had to learn being a NASCAR driver, coming from a completely foreign background. So for me, those were 2 things I've worked at quite a lot. And I think it's a mental game on the speedways, but also it's a very social game. And I wouldn't say I'm the most social person. I didn't spend much time at high school. I wouldn't say I've got an abundance of close friends. So for me, it's one of those things you have to predict everybody's next move. And for me, I understand where I stand on the totem pole tonight, and to be able to do this, but also to be able to have the teammates, have the camaraderie from Ford, and the team that's trusted in me. Like I said, I do put a lot into my racing. There's not much else, like I said before, that I really care about anymore. So it's certainly awesome to have that hard work pay off. It's not just me. It's my spotter Doug. It's Jeremy Bullins. It's the entire Team Penske team. The way Ford has started off with this next gen car with 2 wins in a row, pretty incredible. And obviously, have great teamwork as well. You mentioned Ryan Blaney, and I said it before, I'll say it again. I think he's a great leader for our team. I think he's really coming to his own as far as part of this organization, and I'm very proud to have him and him having my back, especially there on that restart. I will say I think it was in his best interest to be able to help me. I thought the bottom was the dominant lane on restarts. It put him in a position to be, second behind the leader and have a shot coming off of turn 4. So that's usually all you can ask for from a teammate, to let him give you a shot and take his own when he has it. So otherwise, yeah, definitely a great experience.
And what was that moment like with your parents, especially your mom?
Yeah, my mom has been like the backbone of my racing career, whether if it's making brownies for the guys, or packing a cooler to go to the summer shootout, or driving me home from a long day, tucking me in my fire suit when I've gotten wrecked for the 3rd week in a row at Concord Speedway. All those things that moms do. And she's been around it. Her brother raced, like we mentioned before. She comes from a racing family. Her father raced, so this isn't the first time she's seen this rodeo. But she's been by my side, been a great listener, and definitely one of those people that helps keep me grounded. So very, very proud to have her. She's definitely been my rock throughout my career.
We're going to go to Dustin Long and then Jerry.
Dustin Long, NBC Sports. Austin, I know you're still in the moment, but what does it mean to be a Daytona 500 winner? Tony Stewart can't say that. Kyle Busch can't say that. There are a number of drivers you're racing against and have come before you who cannot say what you can say right now.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of layers to that I feel like I have perspective on, but I'm certainly in a different category in that respect. I haven't been trying to do this for decades. So from that respect, I'm pretty humbled to have the opportunity, the experience, what this means at this point in my career. But I think I still have a lot left to learn from the guys that you've mentioned. That there's a long list of drivers that have tried and finished second, or led a lot of laps and come really close. And some days it's your day, and I'll trade losing the Xfinity Championship by 4 inches for a Daytona 500, I guess, any day. But certainly hard to put myself in their shoes. But I have a lot of respect for a lot of the drivers in the field, and there's a good chance of me having to go to school for a little while here as far as figuring out what it takes to do this every weekend.
Going to go to Jerry, and then we'll go to Justin.
Jerry Jordan, KickAtTheTires.net. A lot of people coming to high five you and give you kudos in victory lane. What was that victory lane experience like for you? And also, you took a call. Who was that from? And if you can talk about that.
So the call I took was from my brother who lives in Norway, and he is one of my biggest fans. He and I weren't super close growing up, but the moment he moved away to college, he and I got really close. And whether if it's just talking to each other on a weekly basis, and we share a lot of some common passions. Obviously grew up in the same racing household, so but otherwise got to talk to him. He was staying up watching the whole thing. Norway's definitely the party country in Scandinavia, so I'm sure he and his buddies are going to have a good time. But I don't know if they sell Keystone Light in Norway, but we might have to send him some. We'll figure out how to make that work. But otherwise, got to talk to him. I can't remember your first question, but it was cool to get that experience to talk to him.
The experience of being in victory lane here at Daytona.
Well, the weird thing about it, like most of the times I've won races in this sport, it's been with the Xfinity team, the 22 Xfinity team. That is, with the exception of winning the truck race in Mosport, like every win I've had is with a lot of those same guys. And this is kind of my first date with the two team, a team that's been together for a really long time under the leadership of Jeremy. And there's a lot of guys that have been trying for a lot of years to win this race. And I can't think of a better way to start it off. I think the only guys that I recognized their smiles and their joy and their expectations in victory lane was my pit crew, because a lot of the guys on the 2 crew pitted my Xfinity car a lot, and we've actually come up together through the truck series, and man, they were on it tonight. They had a money 4-stop and did a great job on pit road all day. So really proud of that effort. And but yeah, to experience that with a bunch of new people, it's a great way to start a relationship. Hopefully, it doesn't set too lofty of expectations, but I think they're learning about me and what I enjoy and what I put into this, and hopefully that's a lot more to come for this group.
I'm going to go to Justin, and then we'll go back up to the press box.
Thank you. First off, congratulations, Austin Cindric, Justin Palmer with the Columbia, Missouri. And Austin, you already mentioned in losing out by 4 inches in the Xfinity Series title. Tonight, you win the race by 3/100ths of a second, the third closest finish in 500 history. Just your thoughts on that kind of coming around and that kind of coming full circle tonight.
When was that? November? Yeah. That race at Phoenix has haunted me every moment of every day for the last however many months, and it still will. Like, I still lost, so it still sucks. But I think I've compared the two a little bit too much tonight, because it's definitely on a different stage, and it's definitely a race that means a lot. So for me to be able to do that, to obviously have a close finish, to be able to put on an awesome finish for the race fans, like we've said before, is a packed house, and there's a lot of momentum with the sport, and in some ways to be somewhat of a leader of that is a unique experience for me, and I have a lot of perspective left to gain as what it means and what my influence is, and as far as a driver in this sport, and someone who hopes to be here for a long time.
Going to check back in with the press box upstairs.
Hey, Austin. Cameron Richardson with the Rich Report. What did you tell yourself after the Xfinity Series title loss in November, and how did it motivate and set you up for tonight?
All right, this is the last time we're revisiting that race ever, because I've never been in so much pain that I've wanted to vomit. Never in my life have I been in so much pain, felt like I've let so many people down that I've wanted to just throw up on the spot. I explicitly remember waking up at 4 a.m. the next morning and just staring, like having a panic attack. It's how much it means to me, and there's no way to describe that. And sometimes you have those moments in life that, some people aren't ever passionate about something like that other than their families and their life. So I'm grateful to have something that really pushes me that far emotionally, physically, that I'm willing to do whatever it takes. But definitely a moment I'll never forget in my life, and definitely confirmation that this job that I have, this living that I've had for myself, means a lot to me.
Going to go to Luis and then Dalton.
Luis Torres, the podium finish. Of course, you had Briscoe congratulate you, but you also had the Thunderbirds celebrating and hollering. They're pretty much your biggest fans right now. You obviously had that moment with them a couple of days ago. Describe that feeling to have such amazing supporters and a bond already.
Yeah, no better way to create a bond than going 9Gs together in an F-16 and then win the Daytona 500 a couple of days later. Talk about badass. I, I can't even begin to say how cool of an experience that was. As someone that's grown up loving Star Wars their entire life, that's probably the closest I'll get to flying in an X-wing. But definitely an amazing experience. What those guys do, but also the people just in the Air Force in general and our armed forces, what they go through, what their bodies go through to keep us free and safe. It's great perspective gain for sure, and a great perspective for me on the critical things for the human body, like blood and oxygen. Like, that's important. Like, food and water go below blood and oxygen, and being able to figure out what it takes to, have the right blood flow and get the oxygen in the right way while you're pulling 9Gs so you don't pass out while you're seeing tunnel vision, and then have to do the duels the next night or the couple hours later was definitely an experience, but something I'll never forget. And obviously really cool. I didn't expect to see them in victory lane. I told them if I won that they needed to be in victory lane. They did just as they were told. So really cool to see them and share that moment.
Going to go to Dalton and then Daniel.
Austin, Dalton Hopkins, frontstretch.com. Taking back to Phoenix in November. I'm just kidding. Can we talk about today? So I was talking to a lot of drivers in the Field Care Center, and a lot of them were saying that it's kind of difficult to push with these cars. A lot of them, they were complaining about how aggressive it was. Were you on the receiving end of anything like that today, and what were your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I did a lot of pushing today. I was pretty happy with how well my car could push. I felt like that was probably my strength throughout the day, and I learned a lot while doing it as well. It does get pretty hectic back in the pack. Pretty interested to see how Talladega is going to play out. I think it's going to be a lot different race than Daytona, just because how wide that track is, how much less handling matters at Talladega. But certainly learned a lot, certainly a lot to take away from, but I think a lot of that comes down to spotter and driver. It is hard to see in front of you, and Doug did a really good job tonight keeping me informed, and we were able to really adapt to what I needed, the information I needed, what was important for being able to be successful.
We'll go to Daniel, and then we'll check back in with the press box.
Can I get a water?
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm starting to get really dry.
Austin, so when people showed up at the track today or tuned into the broadcast at 3 o'clock to watch the start of this race, it's very likely they either had no idea who you were or knew very little about you. And for
they didn't know how to spell my name. It was spelled wrong on my garage when I showed up here. So.
Well, there you go. All right.
Not throwing any shade, but hopefully we can get that right next year.
So, okay.
With an E instead of an I. It's not the first time. It happens. You usually have to spell it out.
Wait, the first I or the second I?
It happens a lot.
Anyway, but for at least the next 24 hours, 48 hours, you're going to be one of the most talked about athletes in the country, if not the world. What does that feel like, and what do you want those people to know about Austin Cindric, the 2022 Daytona 500 winner?
That's a really heavy way to put it. I mean, you're probably not wrong, but at the same time, I guess I don't think that much of myself, or at least I've never had that perspective. But I think as far as what people need to know about me is, as I've said it already, I said it again, my dedication to what I do is pretty much all that matters to me. And whether if it's the people that I get to do it with or the life I get to live, I know how fortunate I am to get to do this, and I promise you I don't take it for granted. So I'm surrounded by a lot of great people, and I want to do this for a long time.
I'm going to go upstairs to the press box.
No more questions from the press box.
Thank you. We'll go to Davey.
Hey, Austin, Davey Siegel, Front Stretch. I think on a podcast last year, you can correct me if I'm wrong, did you say that you're not a drinker at all? I'm going
have
somewhere
a beer sponsor, and we shared a lot of Keystone Light in Victory Lane today.
Okay, so I assume that's going to be the beverage of choice tonight and potentially the rest of the week then?
That is the beverage of choice for the number 2.
Okay. Thank you.
Do we have any final questions either down? Oh, we'll go to Bob.
Bob Hawkers, Fox Sports. Blaney said that he would not make a move on you unless he was 100% certain a Penske car would win. how much do you think all the talks and what happened here last year played into how the finish of today happened?
I think it played a role. But at the same time, I look at Ryan, and he's honestly been the glue to our Speedway program. If I look back, as far as having two polarizing figures that are both equally good at what they do in different ways. I think Ryan's kind of been the guy that's honestly gotten the short end of the stick some of the times as far as being a great teammate. So, we talked about it as a team on Monday before we left for Daytona as far as what the rules were going to be there and how to manage that. And I think that stays behind closed doors. But I think to that point, I mean, Ryan had a shot to win the race off of turn 4, and that was his chance to do it. And I knew that's the opportunity that he wanted to have, and I think the best chance for him to do that is to be second in line. So he was in position to be able to do that, but otherwise, great team effort, and proud of that, and hopefully I can repay the favor.
And is it, I don't know if surreal is the right word, but I mean, you have you have an autographed Brad Keselowski, card or something in your place, and you replace him, and I think it could be very well argued you outdrove him today. So is that surreal to you? Is that like, I don't want to say surprising, but like, can you kind of describe how that dynamic sits with you?
Well, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I didn't think it was possible, but certainly I don't feel like I've replaced Brad in any sense of the word. He's meant a great deal to our race team, but not just Brad, but I mean, you talk about Brad, Ryan, Bubba. I mean, a lot of the guys that I was having to fend off there at the end of the race are guys that have been in the sport for a while and have paid their dues and put themselves in position every time at these types of races. And I obviously have to do my job and do what's best for Austin and the 2 team, but I certainly have a lot of great perspective on what that means, what that hard work means, and being able to do it like in my second try certainly is exciting, but definitely not a stranger to knowing that I've got a lot of work ahead, a lot of studying I got to do to put myself on that level every single week.
Going to go on the far right to Doug.
Hey, thank you. Also, Doug Turnbull for WSB at PRN. I think from a lot of your answers, you may have kind of covered this, but when it was coming down to those closing laps and you had the lead, did you have the feeling in your mind is just like anytime you would be like if you were comfortable in the Xfinity Series on a road course or something, or did you have, because of the dynamic of Daytona and you being a rookie and all of that, the don't mess this up feeling?
Not really. I mean, I'd say ha-ha to whoever thought my first Cup win was going to be on a road course. But otherwise, I mean, I've won more ovals than road courses, guys. Like, come on, give me a break. But otherwise, no, I mean, you definitely have to remove yourself from the moment. I mean, you think to yourself, all right, it's the Daytona 500, but you have a chance to win, and what are you going to do with it? And put yourself in that situation and look at the characters behind you and try and predict everyone's next move. I think that's all you can do, and you have to live in the moment, stay in the game, and I think it's that simple for me.
Going to go to the far left now to Dominic.
Dominic Otagon, the RacingExperts.com, ESPN Radio Albuquerque. So Austin, nearly 3,000 guys have raced in the Cup Series. Only 199 have now won in the Cup Series. So what do you think you're going to remember most about tonight?
That's a great question. The night isn't over, but as far as the race itself, just the way things changed. I pride myself in being a versatile driver, an open-minded competitor, and that's what you had to be tonight. I'm not going to tell you that I'm the most diverse, the most open-minded, and the best guy in the field, but I do pride myself in that, and I do feel like that played a role, and I think that mentality really paid off for us tonight, and I think we executed on a lot of points, and that's what it's going to take to be successful this season as well, with a lot of changes and a lot of newness. We're going to go to Fontana next week with 15 minutes of practice, as far as I understand. So there's a lot of differences. So I think for me to be able to maintain that mindset, it's great to see it pay off once. 37 times would be really good.
Do a final check-in with the press box to see if there were any additional questions.
No more questions from the press box.
Anything final down here in the deadline room for Austin? We'll wrap up with Justin in the
Plenty
back.
of room for more.
Justin Farmer again, and we were in here Wednesday, and you were here with Harrison Burton. You guys were talking about how much of a friendly rivalry you guys have. How much are you going to brag to him over the next coming weeks as of this 500 victory?
I don't see myself I would brag about the Xfinity win that I had over him here, but not the 500. Obviously, happy he's okay. I mean, I haven't seen the replay, I haven't seen any of the race, but I guess he went for a bit of a tumble there. But tough deal. Definitely not the way you want to start out a season. And obviously, our car count now is fairly low. But otherwise, no, it's great to have him on the team. I think he brings a great energy and I think a great perspective that I probably don't have as a younger driver that can definitely push our team forward with two other veterans.
Austin, thanks for joining us tonight, and congratulations on the Daytona 500 win.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.